Hi guys, it's Oscrix. Today I wanted to make a video talking about my SRS of Enormity champion. It's the second character I've been playing this league. It's a crit-based SRS with lightning damage. Doriani's prototype on your Mercenary is insanely overpowered. This build abuses that and combines that with SRS that have 100% crit chance, a bunch of built-in crit multi, a helmet that doubles the amount of SRS that you can have, and a new amulet that allows you to solve the mana issue and all that stuff. So there's a couple cool new mechanics and uniques happening in this build that make this a bit different than SRS of the past. The way that you cast SRS here is also different in that it comes from Arcanist brand. And Arcanist brand with SRS combined with brand recall makes it really, really easy and passive to keep your maximum amount of SRS on this build, which is only 12. You don't have to even get to 20. 12. So really easy to keep all of them up. They do great single target damage thanks to abusing Doriani's prototype and a bunch of flat lightning damage. Very defensive build with Aegis Aurora, Fortify, Champion, Hybrid Life ES. You can even go Petrified Blood. Eventually, I'd like to go Melding of Flesh with Purity of Ice. So yeah, this character is like 70% done. It's really, really strong, I think, overall, and I'm really enjoying playing it. So let me take some time now to talk about the gear and everything, and the mechanics of the build. Okay, so the first thing I want to go over is how this build generates the SRS. Traditionally, Unleash is the solution. In this case, I'm using Arcanist Brand instead. SRS of Enormity has a few different properties than regular SRS. You can see here on regular SRS it has a cast time of 0.5 seconds and a cost of 17. And Enormity has a cast time of 0.8 seconds, so 0.3 more, and a cost of 28, so a lot more expensive and a slower cast speed. Linked with Unleash, it feels pretty bad to use. But linked with Arcanist Brand, it works quite nicely because all you have to do is cast the Arcanist Brand once, and every time you brand recall, you generate SRS. So even if these aren't attached to the target, you're able to generate SRS, just like you would normally do in an SRS build. And you can see that my maximum amount of SRS is 12, so I'm quite easily able to sustain just shy of 12 for most of the uptime without any attached to a target. So with one of these attached to a target, that's more than enough to, sustain 12 against a single target. So this makes it so it's really passive to play this build. You're able to just kind of like walk around a lot of the time. You just have to kind of cast your brands every about 8 seconds. So that's how you make the SRS. So how do you scale their damage? The biggest thing is to get as much flat lightning damage as possible and abuse Doriani's prototype on the Mercenary. For right now, I have minus 191 lightning res for nearby enemies. So the first source of flat lightning damage comes from Smite. Smite gives an aura when you hit a target with Smite attack that gives flat lightning damage. The goal of the build is to get Smite to be as high of a level as possible through March of the Legion and Empower. Eventually I'll get Awakened Generosity too and some other stuff like that. And that gives you as much flat lightning damage as you can get. This flat lightning damage itself accounts for like half, or not, I think maybe at this point for my build even more than half of my DPS. So it's important that you have good uptime of the Smite debuff. And then if you use Vol Smite, it's even more than half the DPS. The other source of flat lightning damage primarily is from Wrath. Normally, in a setup like this, you would put Wrath in these boots too and use them with Divine Blessing. But I have a bit of a different setup because my Mercenary ended up having Wrath, so I have Haste on Divine Blessing here. But if you don't have Wrath on your Mercenary, you could just like run Haste as one of your auras and then get rid of this and put Wrath in instead. But anyways, I've got Wrath on my Mercenary, which gives a bunch of flat lightning damage to attacks. And I've also got Wrath effect on both of its scepters, and this has a corruption for Wrath effect too, so more flat lightning damage. And then the third source of flat lightning damage in the build, there's not that many right now, but jewels with flat lightning damage on Ghastly Eye jewels. Those are the ways that I get flat lightning damage. And then, like I said, Doriani's prototype scales the lightning damage a lot by making the targets resist very negative. So here's the Merc gear real quick. I'll hover over it. I've got Whispers of Doom on the amulet, so that way Asenaths can curse and explode and have temp chains on top of my Assassin's Mark. And I've got some boots that don't really do anything but give some resist, and Camel's Binding for defense. You could also have like more Wrath Aura effect in here too. His helmet gives double absolution for him, so he gets more of these, a little bit more DPS and like kind of clearing. But yeah, that's basically all he does. Battle Mage's Cry doesn't do anything. Just Wrath. Oh, he also casts Desecrate, so I don't actually need to have Desecrate for my offering while I'm bossing. So that's really nice too. If I didn't have that, I'd have to get rid of all Discipline and use like Desecrate instead for bosses. Okay, so that's the Merc. Let's go over my gear. So the thing that makes this build a lot better this patch is, number one, the Dark Monarch. You can double the amount of SRS you have. So normally you're stuck having 6 SRS of Enormity, but now you have 12. And the second thing is Whispers of Infinity. This is another new unique that gives you a bunch of flat energy shield and makes skills cost energy shield instead of mana or life. So this means that you don't need Eldritch Battery to play SRS. You don't need any other solution to solve the very high mana cost of generating all these SRSs of Enormity regularly. And you also solve Divine Blessing just by having ES. And to sustain that ES, I've also gone Aegis Aurora, so that way, you know, on block, you're just getting tons of ES back. Nice defensive layer. And another interesting property of Whispers of Infinity is skills cost energy shield instead of mana or life. So that means that the downside of Petrified Blood you normally would have, which would make it so skills have an additional base life cost when you're not on low life, they don't actually have that life cost because Whispers of Infinity overwrites that. So I'm actually able to play full life Petrified Blood without needing to like press a life flask or anything like that to stay at max life, which is like I think it's like a 1.3x max hit buff or something like that. So very, very nice. Eventually I'm probably going to get rid of that and go Purity of Ice plus Melding of Flesh, but right now I'm going Petrified Blood, and honestly I don't think there's that much of a difference. At least Petrified Blood, you're actually tankier than Melding when as far as it goes with Fizz and Chaos. But anyways, back to the character's gear. So like I said, Aegis, Whispers, super good together. I've got a body armor with just a bunch of flat armor and ES, and PDR in the suffix could be a lot better suffixes, that's for sure. It's basically just one suffix plus a crafted mod. I've got some very mediocre bone rings, at least this one is. It's just got attack speed, life, and a min endurance charge pretty much, although you want minion damage on it as well. So here's one that's more like that: life, minion damage, attack speed, min endurance charge, and then it would be nice to also get like a resist or something like that as well, or flat energy shield or whatever else you can get. And then my weapon slot, I've got a Fractured Fire spell skill gem, although you would prefer to have Fracture spell skill gem. And then I've essenced it, Deafening Essence of Fear for minion damage, and then I just crafted Trigger. So I'd get more damage on this if I Deafening it again until it has clean suffixes, and or just like clean its suffixes and then multi-mod minion attack and cast speed, or I don't know if it's a veiled mod still, but maybe you could veiled orb it. I don't know if it's a veiled mod still, honestly. It might just be a crafted mod. But yeah, multi-mod gets another like 10% attack speed for minions or something like that. And then on my gloves, I've just got a bunch of resist and life and minion damage. That's it. Energy shield's cool to get to, or armor, you know, both are good stats. I've got a Darkness Enthroned with life and flat lightning damage from your minions. That's the most important thing, and then the rest of the stats are good to get on top of that. Like this one has damage if you used a minion skill recently. That's really good. Or you could get like minion attack speed on this. And like I said, March of the Legion, these are super insane DPS increase for Smite, giving you way more flat damage. And then in my flask right now, I'm using a rarity while mapping, but this could also be Quicksilver. Silver I find nice, and then Ruby and Topaz to shore up my elemental resist. So that means that when both those are up, I've got 84, 85, 84. And these have, you know, gain charges when hit, because you get hit a lot, you're a block build, so this is really nice to generate flasks even against bossing, against those, and staunching flasks. Okay, so the skill tree wise, I've got a Elegant Hubris for Supreme Ostentation, because attributes are horrifying in this build, so you want to get rid of them. Do that, and then I've also happened to take this for 80% Avoid Shock for my Storm Shroud. That's a node that I have down here specifically, but you don't need that. You can get Avoid Shock from Ghastly Jewels very easily. And then I've got Skill Effect Duration. You really need Skill Effect Duration so that way all your stuff lasts long enough. Jewel Saga for Immutable Force. You don't need this. You could get Avoid Stun through Ghastly Eye Jewels instead, and like tattoos. And as you can see here, I've tattooed all my stuff to resistances on the tree. These are cold res. These are fire res. All this stuff's fire res, cold res. And then up here, I've got percent energy shield on the int ones. And then the rest of the tree is basically just a bunch of minion damage. I've got a Light of Meaning in here, which gives a ton of chaos res to help my chaos res out from all these nodes that I've taken. Glancing Blows, Aegis Aurora, so that way I've got 78. I think I've got like 75 to 78 or something like that block. So that way you get a lot of recoup from getting hit with your Aegis Aurora. Then I've got a 12 passive Jewel with increased effect and attack speed. This should have also plus 10 max life on it, but I don't have one yet. And I should also take these last 3 points, but I haven't yet either. I've got a medium cluster Jewel with in Blessed Rebirth. This is necessary. You have to have this. SRS feels terrible without it. It makes it so they're immune to damage for the first 4 seconds. Very, very necessary. You gotta have this. And Renewal for 5% chance to deal double damage. It's really nice too. Good combo with them. I've got Watcher's Eye for crit immune here. I've taken this for crit reduction too, and also this for crit reduction. You don't have to take these in softcore, but in hardcore, being 100% crit immune is super nice. I've got this Mastery, Runegraft of Time. 20% chance for skills to not consume a cooldown on use. So this makes it so when Arcanist Brand is triggered by Brand Recall, occasionally it triggers multiple times. So right there you can see it summoned a bunch and summoned up to max. It triggered multiple times there too. So there's a 20% chance that every time that the brands return to you, that they end up summoning additional ones. So very, very nice for sustaining SRS. Super nice while mapping too, so it makes more, appear while you're moving around. Because that's one of the big issues when you play SRS, as you can see from this, is that as soon as you're off screen from them, they're dead. But thanks to brands and brand recall, they just kind of continuously appear on you while you move around. So it makes clearing feel a lot nicer than normal on an SRS build. Way, way nicer. That coupled with the Merc AoE, right? But yeah, you don't really have to press your buttons a ton to do that. Okay, so rest of the skill tree, minion damage. I've got a Storm Shroud for ailment immune, some block chance, minion damage, and attack speed. And then I've got Runegraft to the Fortress here. Super great. Global defenses for no downside since we have no attributes anyways. And a little bit of mana res. And I've Anointed Enduring Bond for more duration. Very important. And that's about it. I think for the links, the Multi-Strike and Melee Splash. Melee Splash can go out for minion damage against a boss. You could also switch Multi-Strike for minion damage for mapping, if you prefer that. I know a lot of people don't like mapping with Multi-Strike in. But yeah, that's about it. I think I've talked about everything now. It's a lot to go over. Sorry, I'm sure this one was a bit long and ranty, but this is kind of the character at like 70% done. I'm going to be working on it more, and if you're interested in seeing more of what I'm going to be doing with the character, tune into my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/Oscrix. And consider subscribing to the channel on YouTube here if you want to see more videos like this. Thanks a lot, guys, for everybody who's watched this to the end. I really appreciate you guys a lot. And I hope I see you over on the Twitch stream. Thanks, guys. Later.